Today we are continuing our series on cognitive functions by talking about extroverted feeling, or FE. This is the dominant cognitive function of ESFJs and ENFJs, like Denzel. Oh, wrong side. And, and it's the auxiliary function of ISFJs and INFJs. So, extroverted feeling is a decision-making function, which means that it is one of the functions people access when they're looking at how to draw conclusions and how to make decisions. It's a feeling function, which means it's subjective in nature. And we're going to be talking to Denzel about what it looks like in practice, what it feels like to use it as your dominant function. I'm really excited because FE is kind of a mystery to me as an FI user. The FE-TI axis is one that I always feel like I need explained to me more. So we're going to let Denzel share a lot of his experiences with us today. And as always, leave any questions you guys have as you go along, and we'll answer as many as we can.
So the definition I have for extroverted feeling, or FE, is concerned with social dynamics, how we emotionally affect one another, and creating harmony by meeting people's needs. Intuitively knows the exact buttons to push in the exact order to get a desired emotional reaction from an individual or group. Extremely diplomatic, in tune with others' feelings, and makes decisions based on what is best for the group, putting his or her own personal feelings in the back seat. Can sometimes appear over-friendly and spineless. People never really encapsulate the full essence of what exactly FE is, or they have misconceptions. A lot of people are under the impression that FE is they just express all of their feelings, and they can't help but keep it to themselves. They're just super, super expressive, and it's that's not true. FE is mainly just like I said, it's concerned with understanding how people socially interact. FE is also concerned with how the group feels about a situation. So FI users are usually very tuned into how they feel about a certain topic or a certain subject, or pretty much how they feel in general, while FE users are in tune with everybody else surrounding them. We're the ones who are usually feeling responsible for everyone's happiness in the group. You could not help but have the external world of everyone's happiness or whatever in order before you could also be happy. And that's kind of how FE usually operates. We adapt, not necessarily conform. There's a slight difference over there, but we adapt to the emotions of those around us, and we absorb their emotions. And so if the people around us are generally in a bad mood or whatever, then especially as an FE dominant, then I feel it's my responsibility to shift that and to kind of move that temperature up, while maybe an FE auxiliary such as an ISFJ or INFJ, they usually don't really feel the need, or not really feel the need, but they don't usually try to impose their FE to switch the mood, but instead they kind of just take on it in a way. So that's one difference, I guess, between the FE Dom versus the FE auxiliary. The FE Dom is more both FE users know the environmental, the emotional temperature of the room, but the FE Dom is more liable to go and shift it to their liking. Oh, everybody here is really sad, which is making me sad. Or everyone here is really angry, which is making me angry. So how about I go and shift it? And they know how to do this very well in a way. And they also know how to do this with an individual.
I think the epitome of FE was, I remember one time I was out at this festival with one of my friends. Two of my friends, one was in ESFJ and one was an ISFJ. And the ISFJ was just having a bad night. She just wasn't enjoying herself. And I mean, because she was an introvert and she's kind of, as an FI user, I just kind of figured, maybe she's processing something. She just kind of wants to hang back, do her own thing for a bit. I'll just give her some space, kind of walk to different booths so she can have her space. But my ESFJ friend literally was I can't enjoy this night until our other friend, either perks up or goes home. So she went and talked to her and literally just convinced her to go home. So that was was so impacted by the fact that our ISFJ friend wasn't enjoying herself that she couldn't enjoy the festival until our ISFJ friend either changed her mood or left. And I just thought that was like a really funny kind of
Yeah,
example of like in an extreme, but
no, that's pretty much like how it is. One thing I usually like tell people is that I feel like we're incredibly, like, contrary to popular belief, we're incredibly paranoid of being annoying to people. Like we don't
oh yeah,
want to be obnoxious. We don't want to be seen. We don't want to be seen as, like, like someone who's like rude or whatever. We are concerned with how people like see us. I know me, for example, like I'm just like heavily concerned. Like, I'm just always thinking, like, even when I'm talking too much, I'm always like thinking like, okay, how is the person receiving this? Like, are they like, okay, Denzel, shut up, or like, like how are they receiving whatever I'm saying? Like, and I'm just always trying to get in the other person's mind and how they're feeling towards me, so that I can adapt to that in a way where it won't come off as annoying or strange or any type of like offensive type of fashion.
the first night I ever met you, we were talking
Mm.
about FE. There's this kind of stereotype about FE like prying really hard and kind of always
Yeah.
trying to get like open up more. And
Hmm.
I think there's like a certain amount of validity to that relative to say the other functions.
Hmm.
One thing you said that really stuck with me was you were like, I'm also very able to pick up on like if someone doesn't want to open up about something or if they're in a bad mood but they're trying to hide it, like I want to give them the space and allow them to
Yes.
have that because obviously that's what they've chosen. Like, or you said like sometimes if someone's keeping a secret or something, you're like, well, they're keeping it for a reason, so even if I kind of know it's there, I'm not going to try to pry it because obviously they're not ready to share. And I
Yeah.
think that like really goes to show that FE is very tactful. Like that's a word I really associate with FE, is just having a lot of tact, like a lot of ability to recognize what people do and don't want to talk about, do and don't want to share about themselves. And being able to apply that is a really strong skill of FE and one that it kind of naturally has.
Unless if I'm actually trying to make you uncomfortable for whatever agenda that I would have, I will avoid that at all costs. And so that
Right.
whole notion of like prying and like, come on, just tell me or whatever, like I just, personally speaking, I hang out with like a lot of like NFJs, or I know a lot of NFJs in particular, and they're just not like that. So I think
Yeah.
that that's like a stereotype of like FE. Um, that whole annoying, that whole like in your face, like loud, rambunctious, and like prying type of thing, is just not in my experience.
Yeah, I don't see that at all with FE users. Like that's not something I even remotely associate with FE.
I don't even know, like, sometimes like my emotions from other people's emotions that I've picked up. Like there's been times where I've even like I've hung out with someone and I was in a completely happy mood before, and then because they were like kind of like depressed or like in a sour mood or whatever, then I picked that up from them. And then for the rest of the day, like I'm in like a sour mood, and Jamila's even had to be like, hey, like, were you around like someone who was like depressed, or were you like listening to Eminem today or something? And it's just really strange like how that like works, because FE is like so just concerned with like other people's emotions and the external emotions like around them, and that kind of like affects very heavily the emotions like within them. Then that's that's just a huge marker for FE users, and I think that's why like it's so important for them to like set boundaries with who exactly they're interacting with, what kind of energy they're letting in, what kind of energy they're even like setting forth, because if you have that type of control over the social thermometer, like the emotional temperature of a room and everything, then you have to like use that like carefully. And as an ENFJ, like I often know like, okay, if I'm in a bad mood, I don't want to like go and intoxicate like everybody else's mood with that, which I know I'm very capable of doing, even unintentionally. So I try to like keep that reserved. And I think that's another misconception I've been seeing like online and everything, like, oh, FE users, like they can't help but hide, like how they feel or whatever. And from what I've seen, it's usually the FE users that try to hide how they're feeling and everything, because they don't want to affect other people around them, or they know like just how powerfully like their feelings may like impact like other people's feelings around them.
FE seems to require that feedback in order to understand what it is feeling, and like come to terms with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's actually very true. Like for FE users, they'll hide it because they don't want like I said, the rest of the group to like be concerned about them, because then they feel like, like they're like putting their burden on everybody else, which is
Right.
unnecessary. But for FI users, it's usually like, no, I don't want to like share what's like bothering me, because like it's private to me, or like I want to share it with like a trusted person and everything. And
Yeah.
I have to like even like process it, or I have to like, like spend some time and go through the motions with this feeling. I have like a few like a small handful of people that like I could like go to, be like, hey, this is how I've been feeling, or this is why I've been feeling that this certain type of way, or whatever. Like, like as I'm like venting to them, then because I like hear it like externally, then all of a sudden, sometimes like that's when I'm finally able to understand, like, oh, this is why I'm feeling that way, and this is what I can do about it. So, for like, I'm a life coach, and for my NFJ clients that I've had so far, one thing that's helped them a lot, that they at first thought that like a few of them were like, really? Like that's weird, but it's helped me a lot, is speaking to yourself in like kind of like third person. So like what I would do is like, if I'm having a problem, I would literally say, okay, if Tay was having this exact same problem and came to me with that, how would I give him advice? And after saying it out loud to someone, like, okay, so I've been feeling this way because blah blah blah, and venting like how I feel. I guess since we like now have heard it in the external and we've like received it, then all of a sudden like there's literally been times where I'm like, in my head I'm like, oh, I know what to do now, or like, oh wow, that's how I've been feeling the whole time. But because as an FE Dom, like we're so much more in tune, and like FE auxiliary users as well, like we're so much more in tune with like how everybody else is feeling, then it's just so much harder to like fully understand like how we're feeling like inside, as opposed to like an FI user. And which is why we usually need FI users around us to like help us like sort through like, okay, what type of anger are you going through? It's like, I didn't even know that I was like, there's different types of anger. So
From an FI perspective,
right.
to kind of explain where that comes from more, because I've definitely seen that stereotype, and I think I get why people look at it that way, why they're like, okay, FE is always conforming. But I don't think conforming is the right word, but I think a distinction that's important to note is, as FI users, I think we're always like, well, let's just do what's authentic. That's 100% of the time. But we don't give credit to the fact that like FI defines itself very internally, whereas FE defines itself by looking at where it fits in the world.
Mm.
So like, it's a different way of coming to an identity about yourself, is figuring out where you fit in different groups and how you can impact those groups, and like how you can kind of give and take from them. And you can correct me if that's like an incorrect way to describe it. But
No,
I think that's
exactly to me.
FI is very like, okay, here's what I know about myself, done. I'm just going to act based on that. Whereas FE is more like, I'm going to learn about myself through interacting. So I think that's why it, I don't even want to say like conforms to social norms, but like almost like tries on different group identities, and like tries to see like which kind of set of rules or set of like social conventions fits me, and where do I fit, and like that's how they come to understand their identity. So it's just a different process.
That sounds totally accurate. Yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. I agree with that. FE and TI, what they have in common is that the reason why they always come together pretty much is because they're concerned with everybody being on the same page. So with TI, they're concerned with everyone being on the same page when it comes to principles and data and information, stuff like that, like the accuracy of the information. Like, can we all objectively agree like this is what it is? And then for FE, they want everybody to be on the same page. Like, hey, are we all good to go to the ice cream shop? Hey, are we all good with, like cheating is wrong in a relationship or something? Like, or, like, are we all good with our values? So FE wants to be on the same page with like how everybody gets along, like gets together.
Thanks for all the awesome questions today, guys.
I'm David Bowder, CEO of SPASIGMA. Every day, each of us is surrounded by a great diversity of people, and indeed, personalities. Some people we find it very easy to relate to. Others, Not so much so. Our program exists to help you make sense of your own personality, as well as the diverse personalities around you, to help you improve both your personal and professional lives. Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." We'll teach you to understand how to reach the diverse personalities around you, to communicate with them in a way that integrates who you are with who they are. So enough talk about all this. Welcome to SPA Sigma's Personality Quotient PQ program. Enjoy the journey.